Attention, everyone. This is an emergency broadcast. The unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake. Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go, so that you can make the sound we broadcast as loud as possible.
Leftover Army Monsters, Giant Podcast, All Out Attack.
Hosted by Dan Hepner.
Well, it's big and terrible. More frightening than I ever thought possible.
Co-hosted by Eric Marable.
Guards! Help! There's a monster here!
And Amanda Albers.
I've never seen Godzilla this close before.
Featuring Tiara Gibson.
After 10,000 years, I'm free! It's time to conquer Earth!
With special guest Rebecca Daling.
I'm so glad to see you again.
And Chris Edwards.
Hey, wait a minute. How long am I going to be in here?
Oh, I'd say another 15 years.
What? 15 years?
The Heisei era of Godzilla is a bit of a mixed bag, going back and forth between taking chances on new ideas and playing it safe with retellings of classics within the franchise. It is a period that is often hotly debated among Western fans, with many valid points on any and all sides. The Heisei era started off with a rebooting Godzilla back to his status as an engine of destruction, our penance for stepping into God's domain with nuclear power too eagerly. Godzilla was, in my opinion, a great storytelling of the original story, a retelling, updating the effects, characters, themes, and Tokyo skyline to reflect the changes in the 30 years. The follow-up, Godzilla vs. Biollante, came 5 years later, still taking chances on making the big super science, the emerging genetic engineering, and having that be the tool used irresponsibly creating a new kaiju for Godzilla to fight. However, after that, for the next few movies, Toho saw the box office results of Biollante and decided the need to play it safer. And instead of taking chances on new designs and monsters, they would start revamping some of the most iconic kaiju under their roof. This started with Ghidorah in '91, adding a new origin to the Golden Terror, and adding the recent time travel hype from the Terminator and Back to the Future franchises. To follow this up, Toho eventually decided they needed to bring back the most iconic, due to viewer poll, kaiju aside from Godzilla in all time, in the form of the deity of Infant Island, Mothra. But they decided ultimately that wasn't enough, and decided to also still create a new kaiju, one that would be a direct foil for her. And there is a lot more to that story that we will all be getting to in short order, because tonight we are discussing Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth, from 1992. Starring Tetsuya Besho, Satomi Kobayashi, Takahiro Murata, and Megumi Odaka, with Keiko Imamura, Sayaka Osawa, Saburo Shinoda, Akiji Kobayashi, Makoto Otake, and Akira Takarada. Featuring Kenpachiro Satsuma as Godzilla and Hurricane Ryu as Batra. Written by Kazuki Omori and directed by Takao Okawara and Koichi Kawakita. I'm your host and wannabe Indiana Jones archetype, Dan Hepner. And with me as always is my ex-wife who rightfully divorced my ass and does deserve alimony, Amanda Albers.
Hello.
And the bushy mustache head of a corporation that is rather unfairly demonized in this movie for simple land development, Eric Marable.
What's up? Twirling my mustache.
And as usual, we have the resident psychic who lets us know when Godzilla is around, Tiara Gibson.
He's always around. Spoiler alert.
True story. And joining us tonight, we have two very special guests. First is the returning queen of the kaiju herself, Rebecca Daling.
Yeah, hi. I hate that ex-husband of mine because he told me I was fat. He never sends me money for the kid that we have. What a jerk.
Very much. And for the first time here, we have the often overlooked cameo from one of our favorite actors playing a brand new character. It's Chris Edwards. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. My ex-husband is also a dick.
So is Tiara's.
Yes, he is. Oh, Jesus Christ.
But if I find myself a husband, I'll promptly divorce him and let you know if he was a dick.
Okay.
But Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth, the fourth movie in the Heisei era. This is one that I don't get to very often or don't come back around to watch in the Heisei era very often, but I feel like that might be a small bit of an injustice this time around, but we'll definitely get into all that, and I'm looking forward to all this. But first, of course, Rebecca, thanks for being here as usual.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we have new blood here on the show, so for those who listen and play the home game, as you know, whenever we have a first-time guest on here, we like to get a little bit of a background on their history, however expansive or narrow within the kaiju genre. So, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit? Be as brief or detailed as you wish.
I watched it as a kid. I don't remember which ones. Never saw this. Well, of course, I wasn't a kid when this one came out, but naturally, I grew up watching I watched the original Kong. Some of the Godzillas, I wasn't like deep into it, but once they started doing the reboots, I kind of dabbled into them older. I have an appreciation for the art that they used to try and portray these giant beasts before they got capable of doing it through computer graphics. Doing the models and the minis and everything is really cool. So I'm not gonna rate this yet, but I've got my feet wet. I'm not well versed like you. You gave me like that history rundown you gave in the introduction. I wish I would have listened to that before I watched the damn movie. I was skilled.
Thank you. I do write these out in advance. But there's a lot more, especially to this one in the pre-production stages, and we'll get to that in short order. But thank you for giving us a little bit of background there. And yeah, Chris, your story, like a lot of other people, Eric can attest to it as well, is very much the same. You were the right age at the right time when they were showing on TV on double creature horror shows or whatever, right? So you catch them here and there, and it's a matter of whether or not you go the path of most people where you kind of grow out of it and forget about it a bit, or you become me and don't do that. So, but I am looking forward to talking about this. So you're in normal waters for most people, Chris. Yes, Godzilla. I'm looking forward to talk about this one. So before we can, of course, we got to go around the room. Who all, besides myself, has seen this movie before? Anybody?
I have.
Not I. Surprise.
I have not either. I missed this one first time around.
I didn't, and it confused me when they kept. I can't remember the other creature's name. Not Mothra, the boyfriend.
Batra.
They kept saying Batra, and I'm like, are they talking about Godzilla? What the hell? I thought it was like another name for God, like Godzilla was the species or something, and the name, like I didn't know what was going on. And then I saw the other creature. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I needed some backstory.
That happened.
No, I bought this. Oh God, a couple years ago, and I wanted to watch it, but I didn't watch it because I knew we'd eventually cover it. So kind of let it go. And a certain person on this podcast has referred to Batra so many times that I'm like, I'm not gonna spoil it. I'll wait till it comes out on the list.
Alrighty then. So then let's go around expectations going in and general thoughts coming out. Tiara, since your first half of that is always very brief, what about you?
I have no expectations, especially the first time that I saw this movie, because I think at that point we were marathoning Godzilla and Mothra movies.
Just Godzilla movies in general, but yes.
Yeah, like we were marathoning those in between like our long Ultraman watches. So you're like, all right, today we're watching this, and then I'm like, okay. But I enjoy the movie. I'm a huge fan of Batra, and so when we came to watch this one again, it was so funny because I was like, have I seen this movie? And he's like, Batra's in it. I was like, oh yeah, I have seen this movie.
No, I didn't say anything. I waited. It took only a minute or two, and they're like, oh, this is one with Batra. I know this one.
Yeah. So
it was the Indiana Jones bit at the beginning that you were like, oh, I have seen this.
Yeah, because usually I forget the whole beginning of the movies that we watch and only remember the kaiju fight.
The first third or more.
Yeah, but this is one that I remember through and through, so that gives any idea about how I feel about it.
Chris.
I had no expectations, man. I knew it wasn't going to be graphically as beautiful as Godzilla versus Kong, which I just watched recently. So, or Kong versus however they organized the name.
Godzilla versus Kong. Kong versus Godzilla is from 1962.
Okay, yeah. So I knew it wasn't gonna blow me away visually like that, but I went in prepared, knowing that, and I had to double check the year that this was made because I was really surprised by some of what was being mentioned. I don't want to get ahead since we're just asking about expectations, but I didn't. I just was going in to watch it and get to talk to some cool people.
Cool. Eric,
Who are those people?
Not us.
No, I'm joking. No, I didn't kind of really know what to expect. I mean, I expected Batra obviously to go in there to just look cool, be cool, do cool stuff, and have cool powers because Tierra has mentioned how cool Batra is in the past. So that's kind of the reason I didn't really want to spoil this for myself. Having seen some 90s stuff, I kind of had an expectation that it could be a little more serious. It's not going to be as goofy, but there could be a little bit of the time comic or elements that could be that's in cinema of the time. So I didn't really know what genre they were going to pull from. So I didn't know really what to expect and went in there just feeling like a 90s movie, I guess you could say. And coming out of it is like it did feel like a 90s movie. It did feel like it wanted to be important as far as like being a big epic, having to do something that was going to be long-standing. So there were elements that it did land on that, so to say. So those are my expectations going in and coming out.
All right. Amanda.
My expectations, it was a 90s film with Godzilla in it, so I definitely was still expecting a little bit of that suit acting. I wasn't sure if I was going to get something that was going to lean a little more toward Final Wars or if we were going to get something just basic and boring. And I love the Mothra story, so I was waiting for the twins and Infant Island and all that jazz and seeing what Mothra looked like this time around and the larva. And good expectations. It was not quite Final Wars, but it definitely had a little more to it than some of the more boring plots that we have seen.
Cool. Rebecca.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that first Mothra movie. I've seen it many times, of course, and I've seen even went to a Riff Tracks live event where they riffed Mothra in the theater, and that was pretty awesome and fun. So, going into this Godzilla versus Mothra, I mean, I expected to see Mothra as a larva. I expected to see the cocoon stuff. I expected some really cool kaiju battles. I liked having this third kaiju involved was a lot of fun as well. I mean, I expected like cool Godzilla Mothra stuff, and I got it, and that was great. And I mean, it's pretty much what you would expect from a Godzilla versus Mothra movie.
All true. And this one I always kind of go a little bit back and forth with. When I first saw the movie, it was back when I was like 14 or 15 or something like that. It was early teen years and everything. The Heisei era. After Godzilla vs. Biollante, nothing came out for like a good 5 or 6 years of it. And the movies were being made. They just didn't come out over here. And then Ghidorah through the end of the Heisei era all came out within like a year and a half each other on VHS tapes. So this is one that came out the front half because it was that Ghidorah, and then this one came out. So I watched them more or less back to back. And, I was at the time starving for new Godzilla content, so I would eat up anything that was put in front of me. As I said earlier, it's not one that I go back to very often, just because there's parts of the human story, and we'll get into it, that I find a bit dull at times. It's obviously very preachy. Most Mothra movies are, but it's a bit drier. There's not as much flavor in the message, I feel, as a lot of times Mothra can do. So as a result of it, it's one that I feel is a bit more of a slog at times. But watching again this time, there's researching some of the backstory stuff behind it. There's a lot of fascinating stuff that I can see the various elements of it now, knowing all the backstory behind it and where certain plot beats and threads came from, and we'll get into all that. But Batra I've always thought was really cool and underutilized, and I wish Batra had more prominence, at least in another movie. He's had prominence in some games and comics and everything, but we'll get into all of that. So it's one that I go back and forth a bit between. But in order to really go into it, why don't I go ahead and break down that plot?
Nice.
In mid-1992, following the events of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, a meteorite crashes in the Ogasawara Trench. 6 months later, explorer Takuya Fujito is detained after stealing an ancient artifact in Thailand and getting arrested. Later, a representative of the Prime Minister offers to have Takuya's charges drop if he explores Infant Island with his ex-wife, Masako Tezuka, and Kenji Ando, the secretary for the Marutsumo Company, mostly known for their land development projects. After the trio arrives on the island, they find a cave containing a depiction of 2 giant insects in battle. Further exploration leads them to a giant egg and a pair of diminutive humanoids called the Cosmos, the last of a long since destroyed ancient civilization, who identify the egg as belonging to Mothra. The Cosmos tell the civilization to try to control the Earth's climate, thus provoking the Earth into creating Batra, also known as the Battle Mothra, not Batra, which became uncontrollable and started to harm the very planet and destroy the civilization. Mothra, eventually the protector of civilization, fought the Batra and eventually won, sealing it away in the Arctic. Cosmos explained that the meteorite uncovered Mothra's egg may have also awakened Batra, who is still embittered over humanity's interference in Earth's natural order, as seen by what's happening nowadays. Obvious metaphor is obvious. It's not even a metaphor. The Martumo Company, meanwhile, sends a freighter to Infant Island to pick up the egg, ostensibly to protect it, but obviously they're just going to exploit it because humans got a human. As they're sailing, Godzilla arrives, having been awoken also by the meteorite crash 6 months earlier, but didn't decide to actually show up until just now. He heads directly towards the egg before it hatches into the Mothra larva. Batra, also in larva form and having been awoken, soon appears to join the fight, allowing Mothra to retreat while Godzilla and Batra continue to fight underwater, where eventually they fall into a crack in the Philippine Sea plate and swallowed by the magma. Misako and Takuya later discover Ando's true intentions when he kidnaps the Cosmos after the loss of the egg and takes them to Maritumo headquarters in Tokyo, where the CEO intends to use them for publicity purposes. Of course he is. Mothra eventually makes her way to Tokyo in an attempt to rescue them, while being intercepted by the JSDF, first in a naval blockade which fails, and on land which doesn't work particularly well either. After trying to retrieve the Cosmos, and the Cosmos then telling Mothra to stop the destruction, it retreats, and then is attacked again by the JSDF, where it then heads to the National Diet building and starts constructing a cocoon around herself. Meanwhile, Godzilla surfaces through the volcano in Mount Fuji because he's fucking pissed. Both Batra and Mothra show up in their transformed moth forms, also known as Imago, and converge at the Yokohama Cosmo World, where Godzilla also arrives to interrupt the two already in battle. The two moths then decide to join forces against Godzilla, eventually overwhelming him and carrying him out over the ocean. However, during this, Godzilla bites Batra's neck and fires his atomic breath into the wound, killing the poor creature. And a tired Mothra drops Godzilla in the lifeless Batra. Tired my ass. She fucking was like, oh, 2-1, I win. And they fall into the water below, where Mothra then seals Godzilla below using a mystical glyph. The next morning, the Cosmos explains that Batra had been waiting many years to destroy an even larger meteorite that would threaten the Earth in 1999. Mothra, before Batra's death, promised that she would stop the collision, and so she and the Cosmos leave Earth as the humans bid farewell, as credits roll.
Nice.
Thank you. So this is a Godzilla movie where he is very much just sort of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Batra kind of wasn't wrong for wanting to destroy the humans.
Right.
We got so much worse.
Yeah, we do. So there's a lot of backstory to some of this stuff. So I am going to, instead of just dumping it all here, as I sometimes do, instead, I'm going to let you guys kind of freeform, and I will simply interject with like, well, so the story behind that was something like, this is a confusing plot element, or why did they decide to do this? I will let you know why. So where does everybody else want to begin?
So I thought it was pretty interesting, like, this movie for me in a lot of ways copied that original Mothra movie beat for beat in the plot. Like, of course, the twins showing up, Infant Island, them being kidnapped and try to like being forced into like becoming the mascot or the like publicity people for this, you know, evil corporation kind of thing. And then of course they're rescued. I mean, we do sort of get like a Kenny type character, although the little girl is much less annoying than a Kenny. And then of course, you know, Mothra kind of being like at the end the hero, not kind of, but she is the hero of the movie, and then but she promises to come back. Yeah, I found that actually pretty interesting that it was so close to that original, to that first Mothra film. I mean, yeah, very little deviation.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. I mean, yeah, we were going to get the twins, but then when you get the guys, you know, they lose the egg, like, scratching their chin beards that they don't have, but we're going to exploit these twins here and make money off of them. I was like, we've seen this a couple of times before.
Yeah.
But they were awesome. I love these twins.
And yeah, it is very much, yes, a concurrent retelling. They do both. They do both a retelling of the original 1961 Mothra and also, at least at the very beginning part before the egg hatches, they're doing Mothra vs. Godzilla from 1964. Because in that one, again, very much the opening scene in this movie, over the credits, as a result of the meteorite crashing, is the tsunami that's hitting a coastline. You see the Marikuma Corporation logo on there being like, hey, a resort coming soon, landslide happens, reveals Mothra's egg. That's the exact same opening from Godzilla, or Mothra vs. Godzilla in 1964. Exact sort of a thing happens. There's no meteorite, but tsunami hits developmental project, egg is revealed, and that the egg then washes up onto the Japanese shores, and yeah, a corporate asshole fucking buys it off the villagers who like netted it and fished it back onto shore, and then they're looking to exploit the egg. So it's always a very typical Mothra story of just like either the egg, the twins, or both are going to be exploited by some douchebags in business suits.
100%. Douchebags exploiting ladies.
I had no experience with Mothra whatsoever, and I was shocked. Like, what made me go back and check the release date was the ex-wife and how firm she was in like her women's rights. I know it's I look at it as such a small detail, but I mean realistically it's not. And even from the time that it was getting done and being a Japanese movie, I'm curious if that was like originally in a script or if that was like liberties taken once we started voiceovering for Western audiences.
No, that's always been a part of the movie in the shooting script and everything was her having it's a little less in the actual Japanese version, but I mean it's still very obviously there. It's just again cultural differences, the way things are worded are a bit different, but it is still very much a part of the movie and everything. And yeah, I mean I don't disagree with you. And it is weird to like say like how it's weird to see a movie in the 90s with strong women's rights, but it kind of did doubly in Japan. I mean I don't know if it was an intentional choice because movements were going on in Japan at the time. I don't know historically on that or whatnot, but it's refreshing to see, but it is probably deliberate based on something culturally relevant at the time, but I couldn't tell you what.
I mean, even if you look at like Western American films in the 90s, I would argue that there was not a lot of like pro-feminist stuff coming out of Hollywood, and not that there's a lot of that coming out right now anyway, but for the 90s and being a Japanese film, as has been said, I too was struck by like how she was like, all right, you can sit here and rot in jail if you want, and I was right to divorce you because we have this kid and you never send me any money for her, and she knows you're a thief. I didn't even have to tell her anything. Like, it was pretty interesting. I mean, it definitely has like sort of that morality to it, and I think that has a lot to do with culturally where this movie was made, about how like he's like a dishonorable person because he's a thief, and his daughter can't look up to him and brag about him even if she never sees him. But I do appreciate that the ex-wife in here, she was pretty firm in not really wanting to get back together with him. Although I guess the movie ends with the kid holding both of their hands. It's sort of implied that maybe they'll be a family again, which I hope that she did not remarry him. I hope she went off and discovered she was actually a lesbian and lived with another lady and had a much happier life than with this guy.
Exactly. Like, they cannot get back together, and he can, actually start paying child support and seeing his kid like he's supposed to.
I was going to say, I'm just going to put it out there. I think the reason he doesn't send her any alimony is because he's a fucking shitty-ass thief, as we can clearly see, and can't secure or fence anything.
I started calling him Rambo Jones at some point.
And it wasn't exactly like he was. I mean, at the end of the movie, the daughter is kind of like the only redeeming thing for him. He doesn't ever perhaps I missed it, but he doesn't ever go along with the plan. Like, it's always just so he doesn't have to stay in jail.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's true. I think it's never like, oh man, I'll get to see my kid or whatever, or I'll get something good.
Yeah, he
it's
was
like,
running
well,
away
I don't
from
want to go
her.
to jail, so I better do this thing.
He's like, well, I don't want to be here for a long time, because he was going to stay there. He's like, I was going to get out in a week anyway. And they're like, no, you weren't.
You weren't.
Right.
And then he dips out on his daughter at the airport? Like,
yeah.
Not only dips out on her, then steals the Cosmos from the people who stole them in the first place, and is going to sell them to some fucking American for $1 million. Like, dude, what a piece of shit.
$1 million.
Like, even when the daughter saw him, he was still trying to sneak away, but she caught his ass first.
Yep.
That is literally the only reason he had any interaction with her.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get out the fucking fire escape with the Cosmos, man.
Right? Like, this fucking guy.
I mean,
he was going to sell him regardless.
To Americans and had a spinoff, I'd have been all right with it, because it seemed like all they was exposition to give us what was getting lost in translation.
There were also bards to power up.
I mean, they're always
very
bards.
important.
I mean, I get that at the end. They could have did their little nice reunion, the talking in sequence and everything, and
That's
always the thing. Like every time
twin
Mothra is involved, there's always these twins, and it's always this.
Yeah, they're always either played by identical twins or played by women who look similar. They're always portrayed in this fashion. They talk in unison. They sing. They're the ambassadors for Mothra. They're telekinetic, or at least psychic to some degree, depending on it. And in the Rebirth trilogy in the 90s, there's actually 3 of them. They have an evil third sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The third sister is awesome.
Belvera is kind of awesome.
Yeah, she is.
She dresses all like baby metal, goth metal. Oh, it's great.
Yes.
I do want to hear the rest of Rebecca's fan fiction spinoff.
Right? She can hook up with the
daughter, and does Godzilla come back?
Right, no, but yeah, she can hook up with the assistant to the seismologist professor.
There you go. See, I mean, I think that's where she's going to find real love and move on with her life. And then her daughter can go to Berkeley. Like, I just feel like this is where it goes.
You really do hope she doesn't end up with him, because yeah, it's just like, oh, I guess everything turned out all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he's gonna think, but no.
Right. Also, this time around, watching it when he's in the jail cell and she is walking up with the minister assistant, whatever. You look at her from the back, and I just went, Tommy Oliver, why are you in jail in Thailand?
Oh, Jesus.
He's got like the hair. He's wearing the green, wife beater. Like he's got the bandana on. He's looking a little Green Ranger.
Dude, this guy was freaking everything, dude. I thought for a little bit he was Short Round, and he took on the mantle of Indiana Jones for a while, and then he became kind of like Tom Cruise, a little bit of Rambo, but not really Rambo, but like, was it maybe Hot Shots version of Rambo with Charlie Sheen?
Yeah.
A little bit of part, you know?
Yes.
So he was a little bit of everything. I was like, oh my god, this guy. He needs to find his identity. Like, they were dipping and pulling from everything that was popular, from 21 Jump Street to Indiana Jones, or Young Indiana Jones. Maybe that's where they got it, because that was popular back then. They, like, recycled everything, too. Like, the movie didn't pay homage to what came before. They just straight up copied it. And it was like, you can copy it and splash it up a little bit, you know. You can get a new artist to redo a cover of a comic book, and it looks totally new, paying homage. This was just a fucking cheap ripoff.
Well, at least from the beats that we watch in the movie, but a lot of the backstory isn't. Yeah. In the past, we've seen the people of Infant Island, which it's just them. It's just the cosmos in this case. It's not a whole civilization that's a bit more ancient and, you know, like in Mothra vs. Godzilla in 64, they have suffered from atomic testing and like radiation poisoning in the area, so the islands kind of become desolate. We see them beforehand in the original Mothra movie, and it's same setup, you know, a more ancient race and so forth. But in here, it's very much what we've seen before of like the Mu continent in both Atragon and from the Heisei 90s Gamera trilogy of an ancient civilization. They got a bit too big for its britches, started fucking around with shit, and then got fucked up for it.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said, Eric, about a lot of this is just straight up like a copy. And there definitely are a lot of elements from previous movies that just felt like a copy and paste. I think the addition of the third kaiju is probably what could potentially set this movie apart because originally, Mothra and Batra are like ancient enemies, but then here comes Godzilla sticking his fat face into everything, and then they're like, hey, we better now let's be friends and fight Godzilla, and then Godzilla conveniently kills Batra. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, well, that was great. But I don't know. I like the Batra story part of it. I think I would have liked more Godzilla in this movie. I didn't feel like it was terribly Godzilla versus Mothra all the time, and I think that's probably what this movie suffers from. In my opinion, is not enough Godzilla.
Yeah, and that's very much because so there are many different things or scripts that were floating around at the time that this movie kind of cobbled together. One was a movie called Godzilla vs. Gigamoth. The Gigamoth idea, concept, and early designs eventually morphed into Batra. But then also they were looking to do a Mothra movie. I don't remember the name of it, but Mothra versus Bagan. Bagan, Bagan, or Bagan, or Bagel, whatever you want to call it. There's no real pronunciation for it. Is a kaiju that I don't remember if I've talked about it on here before. I have to have, because he is a kaiju that has been around since 1980 that has never actually seen the light of day in a movie. Ever. Yeah.
Aw, poor kaiju.
Yeah, the only real seen the light of day Bagan has ever had was he's the final boss in the 90s Super Nintendo game Super Godzilla. But so there was the Mothra story with that, then there was Godzilla vs. Gigamoth, and then there's one or two other things that are floating around for other ideas for Godzilla movies. Some would be later explored in Godzilla vs. Destroyer at the end of the Heisei era of this era of films, and a couple of various other things that all kind of end up being cobbled together here to make this movie, and that's very much why it's Mothra's movie with the fighting Batra, and Godzilla's here to fuck shit up. Because, as always, Godzilla is fuck around and find out.
Yes, he is.
I see this whole movie through the lens of, like, very, very, very manipulative Cosmos. Like, think about it. At the end of the movie, they turn into a ball of light. They could have escaped at any time. But instead of doing that, they summon Mothra to come fuck up the city. And then call off the attack. And then summon Mothra back again. Like at any time they could have stopped all of that, but they were like, nah. They were really playing the fuck around and find out game.
That's a great point. I when they turned into a ball of light or energy or whatever, and I was like, wait a minute, what's happening here? What is this? This is not the twins I'm used to. Like, they are actual just tiny ladies. Like, they're not energy balls. Like, what's happening here? Yeah, and then they all flew away into space, and I was like, okay.
I like the floating fairies.
Yeah, but
with the floating fairies.
Right.
Is that new? I mean, Dan, I'm sure you would know. Is this like the only time that this was a thing with the twins? I don't remember this before.
It's not the only time. It is, to my recollection, the first time.
Okay. Yeah. First time. Gotcha.
It's the power set of the Shobijin, or Cosmos in this case, has always been a bit nebulous. It depends on which iteration, depends on what the backstory is, because they're part of this, the last remaining members of this ancient cosmos civilization that fucked around 12,000 years ago and got shit fucked up for everybody. Presumably that's just something they could do when they felt like doing it. I mean, again, it's very nebulous and ill-defined, which it's going to be because it's telekinetic and psychokinesis and varying powers of the mind, which we have returning Miki Sagusa here as the human psychic girl to continue on through the Heisei era. So, I mean, it's one of those, all right, sure, whatever the fuck,
Gotcha. Okay.
But I appreciate Tiara, you being like, they could have left whatever they want to. And I just kind of went, yeah, they could have. They could have.
They could have, but no, they were like, hey, let's get our larval phase Mothra to come here and fuck up these people. Yeah, okay. And then,
Because presumably that'll attract Batra back, because we know he's alive. We're not telling everybody else that we know Batra's still alive, and probably Godzilla as well. But they are. We know that. No one else does.
We know
But
that.
that'll attract, right? It'll attract Batra, and then they'll do battle over civilization. Presumably more people will die, and then Godzilla will show up. There'll be a big fight with a bunch of property destruction and everything. It'll help bring our point home, and then we're gonna fuck off out of space.
Every time somebody were asking them something, they just looked at each other like, "Yeah,
Right.
we gonna fuck them up."
So should we tell them? No.
No. So that looking at it in like a fun view like that takes away some of like the I've seen this before-ness of this movie.
Sure,
Like,
find new nihilistic interpretations of what's going on with characters. Sure.
Yeah,
I'm
happy.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one when I was watching this, where I was like, they knew everything. They knew all of it. They knew what was going
did.
on.
They did that
The only
shit on
time-
purpose.
Yeah, the only time they seemed concerned was when the larva was leaving them after they met up at the hotel lobby, and they were like, "Oh no, they're shooting at Mothra now. Ugh, maybe we made a
Even
bad
though-
decision here."
Even though they were shooting at her, or no, they weren't shooting at her beforehand. But like they
Right.
shot at her through the naval blockade, and she fucking ran right through a ship. And I always find that particular moment of like when she rears up in the water and smashes through that destroyer.
Mhm.
And it's like the Mothra song's playing, and like usually you associate the Mothra song with something either mystical, semi-triumphant, something positive. And
Yeah, something
every
a little
time,
more peaceful and
every
chill
time
and calm.
I've, even from the first time as a teenager, I saw them, like, that's like 700 people dead. And we're supposed to feel good about that.
I know Mothra caused more destruction than the other two, I think.
Well, I mean, Batra, he attacked, what was that?
Nagoya.
Thank you. So, he attacked Nagoya, caused a good deal of property damage
I mean,
and whatnot.
it's definitely a bigger body count than Mothra has done before, which I thought was just hilarious.
That is true. Presumably, we're supposed to assume that city, that Tokyo, or at least that area, is evacuated, but we all know it ain't. Like, these movies will always pop up, like, evacuations are complete. Really, in 20 minutes? Are you shitting me?
Yeah. In an orderly and professional fashion, everyone, please evacuate. Godzilla's coming. Mothra's coming.
I know. I was getting a kick out of that. They're like telling them to evacuate, and the fight's already starting. Like, hey, look, guess what? We just found out they're at mountains, and these creatures are fighting over here. You might want to get away now, you know? But then where do you go? Like, you don't know where they're going to go, and they're crossing the oceans to find each other. So
Yeah, no, and especially like you see scenes of like as Mothra and Batra in their final forms are fighting over the skies of Yokohama, and then we just see Godzilla fucking trudging through and wrecking a bunch of buildings. He's like, "I'm on my way. I just can't fly, assholes." And you see like you have the disposition like people like screaming, pointing, and then turning away in the foreground of it. He's kind of in the background. It's like, all right, so where are these people going? Somehow these people in Yokohama at the end were caught completely off guard. We see them like looking at Mothra and Batra fighting over the bridge, and they're pointing and stuff at like wharfs and whatnot. And it's like, all right, so there was no evacuation, but we're just supposed to assume that everybody's okay. My ass movie, my ass every Godzilla movie.
Dude, Fabio was totally on that roller coaster, or that Ferris wheel.
The Ferris wheel, yeah. I was getting a kick, like everybody's in a rush to evacuate, and like the little girl and her parents are on top of a building as if that's a safe spot,
right?
And watching the fight and narrating it for the audience, basically with the twins. Oh, Mothra's winning. She's shutting him down, or whatever, however they said it. I got a kick out of that, and then I know it's off top. I mean, I guess it's not off topic, but ever since like 97, long time before that. Every time I see a Godzilla suit destroying any town, I always have One Crazy Summer flashbacks of Bobcat Goldthwait inside of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a great poll. That movie is so freaking good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have to go back and watch that because I didn't realize that's what it was, but it totally is.
Absolutely it is.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Yep. And yeah, clearly like them sitting on top of that building watching the fight, it's like that is the most unsafe place you could possibly be without being like directly underfoot. Like one stray laser blast of anybody and you're all dead. It's like, get the fuck out of here. But you gotta have people watching other than just like the military and government people in the command center, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Because they're the main characters.
Yeah.
You know, we all know how these movies go. We have to somehow keep the main characters in the movie from beginning to end because reasons, I guess. So let's figure out some bullshit mechanism to do it, or put them in extreme danger and act like it's not a problem.
One of the things that, I know was very well established in this movie was obviously the environmental stuff, which was mentioned every 10 to 15 minutes.
It's a Mothra movie.
Right, exactly. So I knew some of that was going to come into play, but also this movie being in the early 90s. I mean, that's when I remember that stuff being preached to us at school over and over and over again. I mean, Earth Day was established, 2 or 3 years before that? And hey guys, it's Earth Month, happy April. So that was kind of made me laugh watching this. I'm like, oh, this is my Earth Month movie this year. It just seemed very drilled in for the times, because I feel like that was what was being preached to me in middle school. Reduce, reuse, recycle, save the planet. We would sell T-shirts, fundraisers made out of recycled hemp and stuff like that.
By the way, real quick, Amanda. No, the first Earth Day was established in 1970. By the way, it was just after Godzilla versus Hedorah.
I thought it was something that happened in the late 80s. Never mind.
So I've got a question for you, Dan. Does Mothra actually stop this meteor?
Oh, that never gets revisited. This series or this era of the movies stopped in 1995.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's never even close to revisit. The closest it's revisited to is 2 movies after this one at 1 or 2 points in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Eric and Amanda try to remember all the way back there. That was before Tierra was on the podcast. Good luck.
Nope.
Good luck. But no, we see one a brief shot of Mothra still flying through space, and just retook the end footage of her flying through space in this and just put it in there again, and then all the little tiny astral projection fairy Mothras came flying down, and one of them found Mickey Sagusa.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, I remember that.
That's the closest we get to a follow-up involving this fucking meteorite.
Well, hopefully she just meets up with Gamera, and then they just go knock the meteor away together.
Sure.
That would work for me. I'll watch that movie.
Well, she's done with Batra, so she could use another mating partner.
Exactly. They totally made out. They had something going on there in that moment.
Horrifying, by the way.
That was a pretty intimate moment.
She pollinated all over him.
Right?
Yeah.
Mothra doing her thing.
Mothra's a squirter.
Now all I'm thinking about is a fucking turtle with moth wings. Damn it.
Yeah, she meets up with Gamera, and she just is like, hey, I think you need to get into cosplaying. And he's like, what? And she's like, here, put these on. Oh, those look really good. And then they're only worn in the bedroom. That's it.
I like how just about everybody now has a fanfic from this movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I actually had to go research real quick and see if there was any reports of a hidden Mothra cameo in Armageddon. Unfortunately,
no, it would have been Deep Impact.
I was gonna say.
Aww. I like Armageddon better.
I do too, but Deep Impact has a couple moments. Also, Elijah Wood.
And the name would have worked better too.
Yep, for my fanfiction.
Definitely.
For my fanfiction.
Y'all are on some fucking scaly furry shit right here.
Oh, I apologize.
But
sounds like a small chance of going way off the deep end.
Yeah.
But
this is just oversized kites that they were using. Are you familiar with what they did to?
I was gonna say actually, this is as good of a segue as I guess I'm gonna get for us to talk about the kaiju designs and the suits and the miniature and the effects work and everything. I guess this is my transition for it off of you guys with your fucking creepazoids over here, but sure. What the fuck ever. Whatever. First thing I wanted to say, well, let's answer Chris's question, or I will. Yeah, it's when they're in their adult forms, when they're in their flying forms and everything. Yeah, they're just puppets on strings, large puppets on strings, and they're not as well detailed, especially the Mothra one, as she's been in the past. Like, if you remember in Godzilla vs. Mothra, even in the original Mothra movie, her feet, her legs actually will individually move and so forth, and a little bit articulate can flail, whereas it's just a stiff fucking puppet in this one, and it's a step down. I also don't like Mothra being this fuzzy. Like, definitely looks like a fucking pillow, as opposed to, like, a kaiju, you know?
Yeah, I noticed that a few times, and it was really obvious at the end when when Mothra was healing Batra.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's really fuzzy. It's almost like a carnival stuffed animal.
Exactly. It's a little plushy.
Yeah. I want one of those, though.
It almost seemed like it was for marketing purposes. Like, you could market and sell, like, plushies and stuff that would be, like, really spot on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that, especially since, like, I feel like Mothra's very popular.
Mm-hmm. Mothra is, aside from Godzilla, the most popular kaiju that Toho owns. Ultraman always is going to trump it because of, like, an insanely
long runtime
and omnipresence throughout everything in fucking
right,
Japan.
because they're still fucking running Ultraman. Right. But yeah, no, like, even my mom, like, super loves Mothra and shit like that, so I definitely think you're onto something there.
Well, and furthermore, the reason, as I said at the beginning, in a recent poll, as they were kind of figuring out this movie and everything, there was a poll that Toho put out asking, because they're like, we should bring somebody else back, but who? Did a poll. Overwhelmingly, Mothra won the popularity contest of that, and also specifically among women. And women in Japan at the time were like 2-to-1 the like predominant movie-going audience in Japan, at least at the time. I don't know what the numbers are nowadays, but they were like 2/3 of the audience was women. So like, all right, let's bring Mothra back.
That's why she goes after the bad boy. There's a love story.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely thought that too. I was like, oh, he's a bad boy. And she's like, hey, you're good. Don't be a bad boy so much anymore. He's like, all right, dear, I'll change for you. The opposite.
Never fall for it. They're not going to change. It doesn't work.
They'll die before they change.
It doesn't work that way.
I'll stop drinking. I'll stop hitting you. I promise.
Oh God, this took a dark turn.
Wow,
that's terrible. Sorry.
Yeah.
I loved Batra's design. Like,
so
the
cool.
larval, like, the larval Batra is just so fucking cool. They look just like mean looking, you know. Like you get the larval Mothra, and she's always big, goofy looking,
a wet turd.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, what they did for Batra was like, man, that's badass. Like, they should have, like, update Mothra a little bit, you know?
Right.
But I did appreciate that they actually gave Mothra more to do than just, like, die.
Because Mothra did not die, guys.
No, I know. It's like the first time ever.
I was so excited.
Because, you know, usually Mothra, like, joins the fight, gets her ass kicked, sacrifices herself, and fucking dies. And so in this one, she's like, you know, when she's healing Batra, Dan is like, yes, this time you will be the sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
Why the twins
Again, Mothra like the twins. Mothra, like the twins, had it all planned out. That's why Mothra had to come all the way to Tokyo to meet up with them at the hotel to be like, so what's the plan? Okay, so here's the plan. You're going to pretend like you're okay and we're not having a problem anymore. Then you're going to go into moth form. That's going to attract both Batra and Godzilla. And that way, hopefully, if all goes well, you'll be able to take out all your enemies at once, Mothra. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, I totally died. And they turn around and just tell them, Mothra says thank you.
Thank you for being... No, she did. Thank you for being pawns in my greater game.
Exactly. But I did appreciate the fact that they gave Mothra, like, lasers and shit in this one because, you know, usually she just has, like, you know, poison powder.
That doesn't work on Godzilla anyway.
And this time she also got mystical powers because she did a ninjutsu seal over Godzilla when he fell.
Right.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I was kind of taken back by that too. I'm like, what is going on? Like they just develop superpowers as they're needed. It's like, course, I'm unfamiliar with the character, but the force field where Godzilla's like trying to
shoot her.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, okay. I guess that's what all the prom queen glitter is falling around for.
Yeah, so this is the one, I actually like this bit about it, Mothra in this case. I'm usually like, Mothra, you're just here to be a sacrificial lamb for whatever reason. Whoever you're supporting in this fight, you'll die, and then someone else will finish it for you. Usually your newborn children. But I appreciate the fact that, because usually, yeah, she's got like because all the glitter stuff that she's throwing on Godzilla is her scales. If you touch a moth,
like how
if you touch a
Millers
moth's
and moths
wings.
are dusty, yeah.
Well, yeah, if you touch a real moth's wings, it's got all this powder on it that helps them fly. Now, if you actually do that and rub enough off, they can't fly anymore, but not in Mothra's case because she's a monster. But, it's usually some sort of, like, poison attack. But again, it doesn't work on Godzilla because he's immune to poison. But, so I appreciate that in this version because we gave her some offensive powers and everything that, like, hey, no, it actually works as, like, disrupts his nuclear fission enough so that he can't actually blow someone out of the sky, like, when she has to be 2 inches in front of his face to do so, But I appreciate that. But Batra, I have always liked Batra because it's a cool design and everything. The larval form we see attacking Nagoya and then fighting Godzilla in the water. Great not a puppet, but a great suit and a great design. Played by Hurricane Ryu. Yes, that's his actual fucking name. He was Ghidorah in the previous movie. He'll be Baby Godzilla in the movie after that. He's Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Destroyer to end the Heisei era. And he was Galala, the space chicken monster from Monster X Strikes Back Attack the G8 Summit.
How did he get stuck being Babyzilla?
He's because he's a bit taller than most, like he's tall for Japanese, so they would put him in roles where, for Baby Godzilla especially, Baby Godzilla in that movie, we haven't covered it yet, is just a little bit taller than a person, so it helped with the suit to have someone who was taller so that it could be a little bit taller. And Ghidorah, because Ghidorah is always taller than Godzilla.
Ah, interesting. I was like, how do you go from Ghidorah to Babyzilla? That's...
He was under contract, and the stuff he did was bad. HR said he should be fired, but he's under contract, so just give him a shit roll.
How dare you?
I don't know. Sorry.
How dare you? Hurricane Ryu is a cool dude, actually. But
with a name like Hurricane, you have to be cool.
That is a fucking badass name, though.
Shane Helms, too.
But, I really like Batra. Again, I wish Batra got more play in various other things. I want Batra to come back. Again, if the Monsterverse, the Legendary Pictures Monsterverse continues, I want Batra. Because we know from the end credits for Godzilla KOTM that another Mothra egg was found, so why don't we do a Mothra movie and throw Batra in there as well? Let's go. Come on.
Let's do it. I want more Batra. Batra needs to come back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Would Batra, did he come from an egg? Like I'm guessing like Mothra did.
No. Because the first time we see Batra is when he's kind of being awoken within the ice and everything, right? And it's not exactly easy to see, per se, and everything. But we never see an egg. So presumably, through the power of mystical Mothra bullshit, she would have turned him back from his moth form into his larval form and then sealed him away. Due to mystical bullshit, I guess. I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's no...
Oh, yeah, because, they did battle before. Interesting.
Yeah. So the egg's not a proper egg. It's more like a sealing container to stop you from going anywhere.
Yes, it's like a one person version of the can of shaving cream soap for Dennis Nedry in the Jurassic Park movie.
Okay. I was overlooking that. I didn't want to like get nitpicky in a monster movie, but I was like, wait a second. It hatches from an egg in a larval form, and then it makes a cocoon. I was just trying to figure out, and unless I'm just wrong and that really happens and I'm unaware.
That's how it's always been, but you're not wrong to think it's weird because, like, okay, larval, cocoon, moth. That makes sense. Hatches from an egg. Yes. But one that looks like a chicken egg that's painted, it's an Easter egg.
It's an Easter egg.
It's like, that's not how a moth cocoon would look, but it's a giant mystical deity monster. So sure, whatever. Mothra's always been a thing for you, Chris. Mothra is one of the rare occasions where the monster isn't from space, isn't some sort of genetic creation, isn't a result of like atomic testing and mutation. Mothra is like this millennia old guardian spirit. Again, like a deity of the planet, like some sort of earth spirit like you would have from like Gaia or something along that nature, some form of eternal protector that's been a long line of descendants that actually also have genetic memory, so each Mothra retains the knowledge upon hatching of the previous version of itself.
Yeah, and so usually in these movies, like Mothra will die, and then the babies will hatch and immediately go into the fight that previous Mothra died in. It's wild.
And win, oddly enough. It's a thing that I've always found ridiculous is that, so I was talking about with somebody on Facebook the other day about like, Mothra has never beaten Godzilla in moth form solo. Never.
Yeah, no.
She either dies or needed Batra's help.
Unfortunately.
Don't hesitate to like bring up bullshit science or something that bothers you in these, because like in these movies, no matter how much like any of us really like it, there's always some weird glitch that like just fucks our brain up, and we're like, yeah, I can't accept that, even though we got a giant flying monster or whatever. This doesn't make sense, and I'm fucking confused.
There's a difference between buying into the premise and buying into everything else. You know, there's definitely a difference. Like, giant monsters, sure, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. And that's perfectly logical and reasonable, goddammit.
I was with Mothra until the chicken egg, and then I was like, well, this just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it definitely is silly, that's for sure. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, and I think, Dan, if I'm remembering correctly, when you recap the plot, or in the introduction of the episode, that Earth itself created Batra. Is that right?
Yes, the ancient cosmos civilization 12,000 years ago, their science is much more advanced than ours, because every civilization that's ancient and lost always is.
Agreed.
Because the message is always they created their own demise in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's creating the Gauss in the case of the Heisei Gamera trilogy, or in the case of this, where they created devices that were fucking around with the environment and trying to control the weather, and it created instability within the planet. And so the planet, pissed off about it, created Batra as a immunodisease, if you will, a response to the humans fucking around with it and everything.
Right.
So Batra's a vaccine.
Yes.
Sorry.
Batra is not a vaccine. It's an autoimmune, like, overcorrectional response. Batra is the lupus of the planet.
The lupus of the planet.
Oh,
wow.
gosh.
Yeah, I did think it was pretty hardcore that the spirit of the cosmos creates Batra to defend the Earth, and then Batra gets annoyed at the people on the Earth for like being idiots and turns on the Earth to basically then destroy its own creator, and then Mothra shows up and mystically defeats him, and then somehow reduces him back to a larva and hides him away for hopefully forever, but not really forever. Yeah, it's very I get what you're saying about how Mothra films are very preachy, and I guess it never really hit me as much until seeing this one as like kind of the third Mothra film in the installment of all the Mothra films that came before it. It really is quite preachy about how we have to take care of the Earth, otherwise the Earth will turn on us, and et cetera, et cetera. But I also do think it's pretty interesting that it's quite a commentary on humans that we just never seem to learn, because we just keep, waking up Mothra because we're idiots, and we just keep doing stupid shit, and Mothra has to keep showing up. And I mean, what greater manifestation of this is there than the fact that we created Godzilla because of all of our nuclear testing? I mean, it's
I love all of it.
Yeah, it's pretty mind blowing once you like kind of connect all the dots. I'm here having like a real mind blowing moment here.
I know. Also, a bit of a clarification. So in this continuity, Mothra has always existed. Mothra existed during the time before this ancient cosmos civilization collapsed. Mothra is a guardian Earth spirit, but was kind of like pro-humanity, looking at the best of everybody. The Optimus Prime of kaiju, if you will. Meanwhile, the Earth, when the cosmos created these weather-controlling devices, it fucked up the Earth and fucked up the stability of the planet, potentially maybe doing something to its core. See The Core from 2003. Fuck that movie. But, something like that, right? Something like that, right? And then the Earth created Batra to destroy the cosmos civilization. But Mothra was already there, be like, hey, hold on. But then their fight still collapsed the fucking civilization as is. But yeah, I like the fact that you're kind of getting this now, of like, you're seeing it now, of, like, all these weird connecting, like, humanity is always the fucking problem. 'Cause we are always the fucking problem.
Right.
Either we're creating Batras, or we're creating Godzillas, or we're letting fucking people from the future create King Ghidorah to destroy us, or whatever the fuck it is. Like, we suck. We know this. We suck.
Yeah, this is and it's funny because I've always enjoyed, as you know, Godzilla films, kaiju films, and all that. And I guess, I don't know, it just never really hit me until very recently. I'm like, wow, this is like, there's a lot of social commentary that kind of went over my head as I'm just watching monsters shoot beams at each other. And I do appreciate a little bit more now, like all of this social commentary. And it's pretty cool, like a movie that I really never watched before, and I wouldn't have watched unless I was on this episode, kind of helped me put those pieces together. And the film itself is not even that good, but it kind of tied it all together for me. But yeah,
context is very key. And also, Rebecca, finally, welcome to the table.
Oh, thank you.
Because now
she has arrived.
Now you get it. You've taken your first step into a larger world, might say one Obi-Wan.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
But also, I'm not going to die to save you from a kaiju.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh,
really
bullshit.
No, I'll die doing something. I'll die doing something stupid, unrelated to save her.
You would do anything to die for a kaiju. By a kaiju.
Yeah, Dan's gonna be doing off some other shit while the rest of us are gonna try to run away.
Exactly. Someone has to figure it out and save the day. Who better?
So if Batra was created by the Earth or the civilization to destroy the
literally like birthed by the planet itself, as to like, get the fuck off me.
Right. But then at the end of the movie they're talking about how Batra was gonna go, like Batra was only there to go blow up the
meteor.
Batra was also waiting around for that.
Yeah. So basically Batra was there just to protect like the Earth itself.
Not the humans, just the Earth.
Just the planet.
Yeah, the meteorite would have destroyed all life on Earth, which Batra's fine with the humans.
So it was gonna save the planet from the meteor and the humans. I gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I can overlook that point now.
I feel like even though Batra was like sealed away all this time, I feel like Batra was probably sitting there like watching both and be like, all right, so we're 7 years away from the meteorite, but I'm also seeing what humans are doing right now. Am I gonna have to wake up early? Oh, a meteorite just fucking let me out anyway. Cool. Now I'm out. Let's knock them both out at once. Also, Mothra's back. Cool. Kill her too.
Yeah, Batra's the good guy.
Yeah, Batra.
Yeah.
Batra's
the Ozymandias, if you will. But let's talk about Godzilla. We've talked a lot about Mothra and Batra because they're the main focus of the movie, and as we said much earlier, Godzilla is just kind of also here, guys. Sorry. So let's talk about it. First, I want to give you a little bit of backstory. Initially, for the actual like designs and behind the scenes making of it. Initially, they were just going to reuse the suit that they used in the last 2 movies, what's called the Bio-Goji suit from Godzilla vs. Biollante, which they also then used again in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah 2 years later. But it got stolen.
What?
Why didn't you give it back, dude?
Dan has it in his closet, we all know.
If I had a Godzilla suit in my closet, you'd know.
You'd be wearing it.
It'd be standing in where the coffee table in my living room would be.
You would have came out after C2E2 wearing that shit.
I would have showed up to C2E2 in it.
Yeah.
Dan would wear that shit to work. We're not gonna skate around that.
True though.
All right.
But for the job you want.
It was stolen by unknown parties. So they had to make a new one that was mostly relatively the same. There's some differences. Only someone like me can really tell that difference. But then, like, a few weeks later, some old lady just riding her bike down the street, fucking randomly found it. It almost gave her a fucking heart attack. She got scared to hell because she just found it amidst, like, in the middle of fucking the countryside.
The stolen suit?
Yeah.
It was just in the middle of a country.
Just left it?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
I bet they
because here's the thing. This made American news when the suit was stolen. American news it made. And you can find, like, you know, news on, like, news broadcasts of, like, the night news or whatever. And, like, there was a $39,000 reward for information that would lead to the recovery of the suit and so forth. So I think this whoever stole it, like, was like, oh, fuck, I could get into real trouble, and just dumped it. But they found it, and then they ended up reusing it. Yeah, but then they found it, repaired it as best they could, and used it as tradition. Used it for the water scenes.
Which is a great idea. I've never seen fucking Godzilla fight in the water before.
Yeah, but they've always done that of, like, if there's a water scene, they'll use, if they made a new suit, they'll use
an old suit. Yeah.
The water scenes were like, oh man, the sets were so gorgeous.
Yeah, and I believe, Tiara, I gave you some misinformation the other day when I talked about when we're seeing Godzilla and Batra in larval form fighting under the water. They actually filmed that in an aquarium. Like, they built a specialized, like, aquarium.
Oh, wow.
If you look very closely, it's almost impossible to really tell, but there are moments where you can actually see, like, small fish swimming in front of, like, the fight.
Okay.
So they actually filmed underwater, and then just, like, put machines into, like, underneath it to, like, create bubbles constantly. You know, like a fish tank, but just under at the bottom instead of on top.
Yeah. I mean, I like this. I like this design of Godzilla, like the suit.
Yeah. It's not my favorite. It's right at a point for me where, because the Biogoji suit that they use for Biollante and King Ghidorah, it's like he's muscular, he's, you know, beefy, he's fucking strong, been hitting the gym. Right here is the last time. He still retains most of that, but he's getting slightly bigger, and then by the next movie, like, from Mechagodzilla 2 through the end of the Heisei era with Destroya, he's just chunky, thunder thighs. You don't really get any more, like, hand-to-hand action. It's just distance beam battles the whole time, just because the suits are too fucking hefty and big to really move around and get, like, that Showa-era wrestling style in at all.
Hmm.
I like the face design on it, though. But then again, I like the last one, too. So.
Yeah, I like his face on this one, too. I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's just like the white touch on his spikes, too. I liked.
Yeah. And the things they did was for this head design they did differently when they had to make the new suit while the previous one was stolen, was they accentuated the fangs at the front a little bit more, and they put some yellow in the eyes.
Yeah, his eyes were pretty yellow. It's like, Godzilla needs to lay off the liquor.
Oh, no. If you know one goddamn thing,
I know.
What? A raging alcoholic.
Yeah. His eyes were really, like, his liver is failing him at this point in this movie.
That'll be in 3 movies when he's going to melt down and take out the planet. We haven't covered it yet.
Oh, but yeah, I love, there's 2 shots in this movie where you get those really good Godzilla silhouettes with the orange background. Like when he first wakes up, and then, like, there's another one, like, halfway through-ish, where it was, like, just flat orange screen. Yeah. Those looked really badass, where I'm like, I kind of want that, like, in a still shot and frame it, because it was just a really pretty silhouette.
There's always something about, like, Godzilla coming out of either, like, the sun setting and it's just behind him, or there's just a flaming city behind him, so he's just backlit with fire, or in this case, lava that he's walking out of, and it's just like that. It just makes you go, well, we're fucked.
Totally. But yeah, I kind of agree with Rebecca on this. Like, I kind of wanted a little bit more Godzilla in this. Even though, like, you know, it still felt like more of a Mothra movie, which kind of makes me go back to just our most recent modern Godzilla Kong film, where we just got a lot of Kong and not as much Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is something that happens a lot, where from the Showa, the Heisei, and a little bit even with the Legendary Monsterverse, there have been times where it's like this is a movie we're planning, and we're just going to put Godzilla in there. Godzilla vs. Megalon is a good example of that, too. Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, a.k.a. Ibira Horror from the Deep. We haven't covered that one yet. Of just like, here's the script. We were going to have other kaiju in it. Things happened, and Godzilla, throw him in there. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know, the title, everything was kind of deceiving when it came to Godzilla, though.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was going to be Mothra and Godzilla versus Batra, but this should have just been renamed Mothra and Batra versus Godzilla or some shit, I don't know. It was just, I was like, what are they doing? Because, like, Batra was quite obviously, looking back at it, he's obviously the good guy, so I'm like, why are you going to have them pair up against each other? Whatever. It's not that big a deal, but...
Okay, so my question with the way that Batra was brought into existence and everything, humans were already around. So Mothra's been around for like a long time. So which kaiju was created to take out the dinosaurs?
You know the answer to this. Think back in your Mothra knowledge. Think back to the Rebirth trilogy. What killed dinosaurs?
I don't remember.
Eric, do you remember?
God, hold on.
Tiara, do you know?
No.
You know I don't remember.
It wasn't Baragon.
No, it was Ghidorah.
It was Ghidorah?
Ghidorah was in the Mothra trilogy?
There's Death Ghidorah in Rebirth 1, and then King Ghidorah in Rebirth 3.
Oh, shit.
Remember, in Rebirth 3, Mothra Leo goes back in time to Sarah to fight King Ghidorah while he's still not the same Ghidorah that we know now, and he was a bit weaker in the Cretaceous era.
Oh,
okay.
So there's your answer.
That's a vague brain fuzz memory.
Here's that trilogy is not technically in continuity with the Heisei era, but the Mothra that births Mothra Leo in the first of that trilogy is the same Moth's puppet in this movie.
Okay. All right. I was kind of wondering a little bit about that. If this was a whole new Mothra look or not in some aspects.
It was, because the rebirth of Mothra 1 happens in 96, so it's 4 years after.
Okay.
The puppet was still around, so they reused that for the Mothra that starts off in that movie, dies, and then Leo is born. I will say something about Godzilla I don't like in this one is the changing of the sound of the atomic breath. It sounds weaker. It sounds more like a beam as opposed to like a force. And it sounds weaker to me. It always has. And it's the only movie where they did that. They changed it for whatever reason, the sound effect for the atomic breath, and it just always felt weaker to me. And other people felt the same because they changed it back starting in the next movie.
I noticed it, but it didn't bother me at all. I don't know if it's because of the introduction of it under the water that just kind of tamed.
Oh yeah.
I enjoy the movies where Godzilla's first appearance, like actual appearance, not just like when he was silhouetted at the title screen, but like his first appearances, we see the atomic breath firing out of the water before we see him. Just like, yep, he's pissed. Good old angry drunk Godzilla.
Yeah. That's what I liked about this whole his attitude in this whole movie is he just came out to wreck shit every fucking time.
Well, but the first time, no, he comes up for fucking food. He's hungry. He's gonna eat that fucking Mothra egg before it hatches.
I know, it was fucking awesome. But he first showed up just blasting away, which was cool.
Right. It was a real. I was telling Jared while we were watching it. It's a real like. You know, he got woken up by the meteor, and like, you know, he was drunk, blacked out from the previous movie. This hits and wakes him up before he slept long enough for the hangover, and he's actually still drunk now. He like woke up so early he's still drunk from the time before. So like he just pounds a few more, little hair of the dog just to get him back. And then he's like, man, I'm fucking hungry. Comes up to the surface like, oh my god. Look, I get shit on all the fucking time, but sometimes the universe provides a giant fucking egg. I can make this however the fuck I want to. And then it hatches into a fucking larva and it just starts shooting it.
He's like, if not, I'll have this for lunch.
He's like, motherfucker.
It's a larva brunch.
You were supposed to be over easy.
You gotta take her out. Mothra's never over easy.
Yeah, but
That was a compliment.
Is it-
God damn it. Fuck.
He's what was
What
that, Chris?
Slow burn.
Yeah, say what, Chris?
Is it Mothra Godzilla's girlfriend at some point?
That's just in the new Legendary ones. Like they have a symbiotic. That's the first time that's been a thing. She's almost always against it in some capacity because he's a giant asshole.
I got told my 11-year-old when she came in and saw what I was watching, she's like, "What is this?" It looks like the old Doctor Who, and I was like, "Yeah, it kind of does." It's got the cheesy special effects. I could see that.
That hurts. That hurts me.
Why?
Oh, it's a
Yeah, why? The old Doctor Who was the shit.
She's a huge fan, man. Like she wants to watch it. I just don't
She's
know
a
where to jump in.
Whovian?
Oh yeah, big
Oh,
time.
I love it. Yay.
Yay.
You didn't know that?
Another one.
It doesn't hurt me because like, oh, I think Doctor Who is bad. No. I just haven't really gotten into Doctor Who, but that's on me and stuff. I don't think Doctor Who is bad. But Doctor Who effects, at least back in the day, were a lot more like original Star Trek effects. And I feel like this is a step above that.
Well, no.
Oh, really?
No.
I was like, now
I
you're
don't
going to
think
offend our guests.
Yeah, you
Now,
have,
look,
you have to watch more of it to
Great,
get
but also
it. Like,
she's only 11, so she came in and technically she at her age, Matt Smith would have been her first Doctor, but I brought her back to Eccleston.
okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, those are like way above what we're getting in this movie.
Yeah, but remember the first Eccleston episodes when Rose, like they had mannequins coming to life.
Yeah.
So it was real
yeah.
special effects. And that's like where her mind went when she saw it, and she was asking me about it, and I'm like, I don't know what, like, you can watch this, but there's a lot of
it makes sense. I can see it. Yeah, I can see it watching it through those eyes. That would make sense.
Look, now I might have a bias.
Like, absolutely.
I
Just a little bit.
might have a smidge of a bias here, but I understand your point and your 11-year-old daughter's point.
Now this almost makes me want to do like a Doctor Who podcast where I bring in someone who's not experienced in Doctor Who, Dan.
Here's the thing, I'm experienced enough just through osmosis where I know enough to where I can follow it. I'm not going to be like where you were at the start of all this, Amanda. So
Right, that's very true. The fact that I had to Google the word kaiju to see what it meant.
And Brooke and so forth. So, and I've watched a lot of like the decent amount of Matt Smith and a fair amount of David Tennant stuff and some Christopher Eccleston as well. So I'm not completely oblivious. But yeah, I think, yes, ultimately we all agree that it'd be nice to have a bit more Godzilla in your Godzilla movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just put Mothra. Like, it's a Mothra movie with Godzilla in it.
Yeah, just make it a Mothra title card.
Yeah, Mothra battles for the world, and now Mothra's fighting Batra and Godzilla, and then they wind up in a team up at the end to defeat a common foe.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Mothra had not been in a movie since 1968 with Destroy All Monsters.
So they're going with the headliner name first, just because.
Yeah. And the combination ultimately did work. This, at the time, and still, it's one of the still top 5 highest grossing Godzilla movies. At the time, it was only second to King Kong vs. Godzilla in 1962, and it won the box office in Japan in 1992. So 30 years later, it's the highest grossing Godzilla, second highest grossing Godzilla movie. It topped the box office for that year, and it really put Godzilla back on like the path of like, hey, now we have, you know, the beginning, the first 3 movies of the Heisei era had met with some back and forth. Return of Godzilla in '84 was a big hit. Biollante wasn't. Ghidorah came back up a bit more, and then this one really kind of soared high by bringing Mothra back into it and reviving her and everything. And that's what led to the rebirth of Mothra trilogy 4 years later when Godzilla went away again. So it ultimately all worked, despite, you know, with the long look of history and looking back at something in 2020 vision and all of like, there are definitely issues. And yeah, we'd like to see have a bit more Godzilla, but it put Godzilla back on top. So ultimately, it still did what it needed to, and it did end up ultimately paving the way for most of the rest of the Heisei era, especially the next movie following it with the return of Godzilla, one of his other most iconic foes, Mechagodzilla, and also the long-needed return of Rodan, also hadn't been seen since 1968 as well. But that's the next movie, and we'll get there. Not in this next batch, actually.
I don't know how this made more than Godzilla versus Megalon.
Weird.
Did he say versus Megalodon?
No,
Megalon.
Megalon's a giant cockroach monster.
Oh,
okay.
That teams up with a space cyborg chicken monster to fight Godzilla and a giant robot named Jet Jaguar.
As one does.
As one does.
As one often does.
I think I might have just found a movie that I'm going to watch with Elena.
1973 Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's on HBO Max.
Oh, neat.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Or on DVD.
There also that as well. One last thing I wanted to bring up real quick before we see if there's anything else that anybody else wanted to bring up. We're going to start wrapping up here in a minute. I wanted to bring up briefly Akira Takarada returning as a minor.
Yay!
But our man's back, and it's always good to see him. And man, don't matter how old he is, whether he's 24 or 77, that's a sexy motherfucker.
He has some good brows too.
He's
Handsome
the
man.
Nice to see
older
him in a
gentleman.
Godzilla movie.
Rebecca and Chris, he's the older gentleman that's in like the government headquarters areas frequently throughout the movie. He's been somebody else. He played the main heartthrob character and lead in the original Godzilla movie in 1954. That was his first movie, and he's been in a number of them since. He was the guy who was the secretary of the UN with the silver suit in Final Wars.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Me and Tara have met him a couple times, and he's a sweetheart.
That's so nice.
He really is.
He's very much the, like, as Mark Hamill is to Star Wars, he is for Godzilla. Like, a fan, he's always hyping it up, and he's always got something nice to say, and is always very active and positive within the community. And it's always nice to have that kind of a person, that kind of ambassador for a franchise or a genre. Someone who actually loves it and being a part of it, rather than just being like, it was a role, who cares? I just wanted to point him out. It's always nice to see him. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to bring up that we have not covered?
I like to always talk about the fairies' outfits. I love their outfits in this one. Probably one of my favorite costumes for that.
They're
I
very
love how
more
they had
like
the
Pop Idol and less, again, as previous movies had did, like loincloth.
Right. I mean, I like how they had like each a long sleeve and a short sleeve, but they were on the opposite sides. And then they had their hair done up in little buns with some bangs, and they had like an extension braid that was completely a different color.
One had the eyeshadow that made her look a little bit hotter than the other one that didn't have the eyeshadow.
Just a little bit. The one on the right or the left?
The right.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. And I also figured Eric, you got totally didn't make an inappropriate comment about the two of them sleeping in the bed together.
No.
Okay.
They're
Good.
twins, dude.
Okay, just making that clear.
I know.
But I always like
back
their
there?
little
Twin,
outfits.
fairy sister, stepsister, whatever.
Jesus, Eric.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off. Or wait, I was just curious. Like, we didn't get a chance to talk about the miniature work on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Go for it.
The miniature work on this. It looked really good, and I don't know if it was just because the miniature work and the actual models and practical effects, if they really looked as good as they did, because I thought they looked great, as much as like the superimposed and special effects they did to integrate the live action people with the giant sized bodysuits and stuff in the background looked so bad. Like Batra destroying the city looked fantastic when it was just a miniature work, but once they cut to like editing over the live action scenes, it really looked kind of terrible, which kind of accented how good the model effects and stuff were. Like,
I mean, it was 1992. I mean, like rotoscoping and like not very good then. But also keep in mind, in Japan, those elements still tend to look a little off. So. But I agree. I think the miniature work is actually really good here when we get it. You know, we do avoid a lot of city destruction to a certain extent, even though most of the action sequences, except for the first one, do take place in cities. Mothra traveling through in larval form, and then the final fight at the end and everything. But I especially love like when they blow up that again Godzilla and his Napoleon complex. He didn't destroy a building taller than him because he was preoccupied with two flying opponents. And what do? They blow up the building taller than him right behind him and drop it all on his fucking head.
Oh yeah, that was fucking tight.
And by the way, there is no particular story of note in this one of like Kempichiro Satsuma or any suit actor getting injured because there was clearly nobody in the suit when they dropped that building on them. They'd be insane
Well,
to
that's good to hear. Nobody was caught on fire. Nobody almost drowned.
Nothing out of the ordinary, like usual day-to-day harrowing experience of being a suit actor. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing specific in this movie.
I did have to chuckle though after Mothra Larval came to visit the twins, and they're like, "Okay, now don't kill any more people, don't destroy any more things." And just as soon as they cut out in that wide shot, the larval form like turns its head and like smashes a corner of a building, and I was like, "Thank you, I appreciate."
Turns around at like another building, you see more flames and explosion come out. You're like, let's just say that one was empty, sure.
It gave me a good laugh.
I also wanted to say about the effects work here real quick. We do have the return once again of the Maser tanks. We also have the first introduction of the dual, basically what looks like a Gundam suit, but without the legs. It's like the gun cannon or whatever. Double Maser cannons and Maser jets.
I'm down with some Maser jets.
There, when Godzilla shows back up out of the volcano, it's the defense line. It's weird because like they're supposed to be jets, but they're actually like Super Cobra helicopter bodies with some wings attached with masers on the ends, and they have TIE fighter sounds when they fly.
I thought I heard TIE fighter sounds when I was watching this. I was like, maybe, and maybe not, but yeah, I think they are.
Yeah, they are. They're absolutely twin ion. Okay. But I always love the Maser tanks. They're always a good old favorite for us. I still will always prefer the old Showa era versions, but there's something about the double barrel like super Maser tanks that I enjoy. They're really stupid, but I like them because I like giant mechs and mobile suits and Gundams and stuff. So it's right out of that playbook.
There's just something about like the average human defense thing that's just never quite good enough, but it's always showing up.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have the obligatory scene, right? It's mandatory.
Yeah.
Like, send in the tanks. The tanks didn't work. Well, no shit, they didn't.
Send them in again. Fuck it.
Did anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up?
I had another little thing. Our little psychic girl she was not as impressive in this movie.
No, she's present.
She's present, but it's kind of like, Godzilla's here, Godzilla's here, Godzilla's here. And she runs up with some suit on her face. She's like, Godzilla's here. I'm like, girl, your abilities are getting a little weak. The only thing that she did, I felt like it was like super psychic, was like channeling into where the twins were. Her channeling the twins was like kind of like the only actual psychic moment she had in this film. Like everything else that she kind of delivered was like everybody already knew what was going on.
Well, she is the first one to be like, oh, Godzilla's back coming out of the volcano. Like, she does, like, true. Twin step before everybody else by, like, a minute. But, like, still, it shows her powers.
Just a little bit, yeah.
It's a thing where, like, her importance within the Heisei era will wax and wane. And sometimes she'll just be there, and other times she's a bit more instrumental. But, like, this is really the start of when she kind of starts developing more of a, like, kinship to Godzilla. It really becomes evident in the final film of this era than the Heisei era. There's a whole thing there, because she ends up developing a little bit of a relationship with baby Godzilla, then little/junior. But we'll get into that at another time. But, yeah, she's there, she's present, and
not as present as some of the other movies, but
yeah, I appreciate her being there though, because she's the only character that's remained like a presence constantly to form a solid, quote unquote, solid continuity in any era ever.
So she's like our old school Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, get it. Absolutely. Cool.
Anybody have anything else? Rebecca, Chris, anything?
No, not for me.
All right, then let's start wrapping this one up. Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth from 1992. Buy it, rent it, skip it. Let's go around the room, starting with T.
I'm gonna rent this one. It's a high rental. Like it just misses buy it for me because I love Batra. I love the Mothra with the lasers, and I don't mind the human stuff, but I after talking about it with everybody, there's just something that's just missing for a buy it. But definitely a high rental. I think this movie is fun. It's an enjoyable watch.
All right, Chris.
High rental, rent it and pay the late fee. It was 92, right? Blockbuster's still around. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I probably need to go get more well versed in Mothra to appreciate this more, or maybe not. I don't know. But coming from what I know of the kaiju, I would watch this again.
All right. Eric.
I'm going to be in the minority and say I'm going to low rent this. Like, I was having trouble staying involved in it. I was having trouble with staying focused on it. I cared very, very little about, honestly, the entire story. I don't know if it's just the verbiage, the words, the dialogue, or the overall idea of the story, because it just wasn't interesting to me. The only thing that really redeems this for me to where you would be like, you got nothing better to do to low rent it, because Batra is a cool villain or hero or whatever you want to call him. He has cool powers. The fight scenes were just kind of okay, with the exception of it looked good when he was destroying the city, I think. Godzilla was just a waste to even put his name in the title of it. Mothra was cute, but not awesome, not beautiful. Like, I hate to sound a 45-year-old man saying I want my Mothra to be beautiful and not cute, but it was just not really enough there for me to just call it a buy it, or to actively seek out to rent this, even though I bought it in a triple feature and I've been sitting on it. So it kind of fell flat a little bit for me. The special effects, the practical effects looked good. They integrated other effects and it made it look bad. So yeah, it just didn't have enough for me.
All right, Amanda.
Yeah, this is like just a solid rent it for me. Good Mothra story. I love all the Mothra stuffs, regardless. Batra was awesome. Didn't know if Godzilla needed to be in it or be in it more. I still can't decide. But I like some of the water fighting with all the fires and stuff like that. That was some good stuff. Some of the practical effects are good. I would definitely watch this again, but I'm not going to watch it like 10 times or something like that. So it's a good, solid rental.
All right, Rebecca.
Right there with everybody else so far. It's definitely just a rent it for me. I mean, I think if you're a Mothra fan, it's definitely a must watch, but much like Eric said, there's just, Godzilla is really wasted in this film, and even though it's titled Godzilla versus Mothra, it sort of is, but it sort of isn't. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's just a middle of the road rent it. I'm glad I watched it. I may very well watch it again, but this is definitely not going to be up there with like one of my favorites.
Gotcha. And yeah, I'm kind of right in the middle with just a solid, simple rent it. It's got some good stuff, Batra, good effects work, and Takarada's there briefly. And the story, I mean, what we've kind of, fan fictioned of like the ex-wife and everything else is funny and everything. But yeah, the movie doesn't have enough to really grasp your attention throughout, because a lot of it is recycled both in plot and message and metaphor, and the themes are all the same and everything. It's a Mothra movie. What are you going to do, right? But it does hold it back because it's not doing anything original with Godzilla or Mothra other than Batra. So it is what it is, and I always have felt like it's kind of one of the lesser of the Heisei era, but it's all in the eye of the beholder and everything. So yeah, it'd be a solid right down the middle rent it for me. Not a great outing for this movie, but not a bad one by any stretch either. Nobody skipped it, and we're all kind of right there in the rental between low and high and everything. So averages out to a rental probably overall. So not bad at all, I would say. Hey Eric.
Yeah.
What do we cover next time?
I don't have my app open. Are we watching The Relic?
Nope, that's next time.
I swear to God. Everybody, hold on. I thought I was not going to have to worry about it. I thought it was the fucking Relic. Oh, shit. God damn. This is bullshit.
Yeah, while he's speaking, I'm just going to tell everybody, I'm just going to reiterate from this movie. Reduce, reuse, recycle as much as you can.
Absolutely.
Earth is pissed at us. Like, the Earth tried to get rid of us this past year, so,
Well,
yeah, and if you have a kid, for God's sake, pay your child support.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
seriously.
fucking show up. Be a parent.
Yeah, don't be a fucking asshole. Be a parent.
Right.
We need some more sound after this episode.
Right?
More you know.
Oh man. All right. This is gonna work as a double.
Okay.
So Moon over Tao.
Yes.
And my friend's son's name is Tao, so I should probably drop my pants and Moon right over the top of his fucking kid's head.
No, don't do that. Please don't do that.
It'll be fine. He's only 3. He won't know.
No, that's even.
The fuck is wrong with you, Eric?
It would be funny though.
Would it or would it be a felony?
Oh God, now I have hiccups.
Oh shit! So I'll have him do it. I'll have him drop his pants with his. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Is it though?
Dateline's canceled or whatever, or they don't do the Predator one anymore. It'll be fine.
It's on YouTube now.
Oh shit!
Yes.
Okay.
Moon Over Tao, the movie from 1997, full title Moon Over Tao and Makaraga. But we will join. Who are we going to be joined by that time, huh, Eric?
It'll be Amanda will be on it, and yeah, I'm just going across here. I'm gonna be on there. It looks like. Guessing Tierra will probably make a cameo.
Wow, what a surprise cast!
Philip Deshawn.
Yeah, yes, Philip Deshawn, a friend of Brooke from. Obviously everywhere.
Yes, very cool.
I'm not going to list off the number of projects that she shares with you, Rebecca, because you'll be doing that momentarily anyhow.
Yeah. Is that Brooke, the creator of my Simon Williams Wonder Man fan art?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Among many things. But yes, we will be talking about the 1997 movie Moon Over Tao, then followed by The Relic, and that closes up that batch of 20. So looking forward to finishing it up, and we already have had the new batch out, and everything's been signed up and taken, so that'll be fun. But that'll be for the future. So, Rebecca, Chris, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. And Rebecca, you're going to be back on not too far when we eventually cover in the next batch of episodes, The Meg, the movie.
Oh my God. You have no idea how excited I am to talk about The Meg.
Oh, man. I'm looking forward to it as well. A much more recent movie, obviously. But, Chris, after your first experience on here and watching this particular movie, you have any interest in coming back on in the future? It's all right to say no, by the way.
No, I like you, man. I like you all. So, yes, absolutely. I'm going to go try and find another slot to put myself into.
You can do that. There are some secondary, second guesses slots available for this current batch, but I have something in mind for you that's not on the next batch, so you can sign up for something else in the meantime, but I have something in mind for you as well, one that you'll be pre-selected for, which will be the follow-up movie following this one immediately, one of the other movies in the Heisei era, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2.
That sounds exciting.
If anybody wanted to hear more from you, Chris, is there anywhere they can find you on the internet?
No, I don't get invited to do many of these, so.
You should promote some of your craftiness.
I get overwhelmed with that sometimes. I got some 3D printers and laser etchers, and I do some cool shit, and I almost give it away after shipping and everything, but you could find me, Buku Lanyap, LLC on Facebook. BeauCoupLagniappe. And you can see some of my 3D prints and laser cuts. I wasn't prepared to plug that, but thank you I know you're always a fan of my work and coming back to me, so it's cool that I get to make things that some of the people I like enjoy getting. So.
And Rebecca, if anybody else wanted to hear more of you, where can they find you?
I don't know anybody who would want to hear more of me, but I don't know if I guess you're weird and would like to. You can listen to me on Picard Cast, where Brooke and I talk about Star Trek episodes until the second season of Picard drops. You can.
By the way, quick question:
Yes.
Did the episode I was on for First Contact ever end up getting released yet, or no?
Not yet. We got a little bit. I know we recorded that quite a while ago. Brooke, as you know, does a lot of projects, and she's very talented and has a lot of stuff happening. So sometimes we do get a little bit of a backlog, but I assure you the episode will come out. It may take a bit, but it does. They always come out. What was I going to say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. We also do She-Ra and the podcast of Power with our friend Cindy, where we talk about the Netflix show She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Number one comic books and animated backcast. We're kind of on a hiatus on those. I just did, if you're a patron of Pop Culture Leftovers, you can hear me on their latest Patreon episode with a bunch of other people talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the series. And completely unrelated to all of that, please get vaccinated. If you can, where you live. That's it.
And there we go. So, that'll do it for us this time. Until next time, we're talking about Moon Over Tau for Leftover Army Monsters. I'm Dan Hepner.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Eric.
I'm Tiara.
I'm Rebecca.
I'm Chris.
And we'll see y'all next time.
Later, children.
Bye! Fuck you, Dan.
Bye!
God, that was fucking extra.